It's a very important subject in many disciplines. It cuts across engineering, business, and management domains. The main objective of this course is to introduce participants to the basics of project management and understanding the framework for project management. We shall also be looking at how to define and manage the work required so that the project can be successfully completed. We shall also be looking at estimating how long it takes to complete projects and making sure that the project fits within whatever constraints that are expected of them. We shall also be looking at how to prepare and manage project budgets and satisfy stakeholder requirements. For starters, we shall be looking at chapter 1. Of course, you know the course is made up of 10 chapters. That is project management framework. Then chapter 2 is project integration management. Chapter 3 is project scope management. Chapter 4 is project time management. 5 is project cost management. 6 is project quality management. 7 is project human resource management. Chapter 8 is project communications management. Chapter 9 is project risk management, and chapter 10 is project procurement management. The grading will be such that continuous assessment will fetch you 30% of the marks. And of course, we shall have an end of semester exams that would be 70%. There are a couple of references that I have provided in your material, so you can find them. I think I gave about 4 or so references. But of course, if you have any good project management book, you could also use that to supplement what we have. Great, so we shall start with project management framework. And the learning objectives for this chapter is such that at the end of the chapter, you should be able to explain what the project is. And of course, projects have attributes, so you should also to list some attributes of projects and describe what we call the triple constraints of projects. And again, at the end of this chapter, you should be able to describe project management, have a fair understanding of who project stakeholders are. Then of course, you should be able to also discuss or understand the relationship between projects and what we call program and portfolio management. Again, as would be, or perhaps project managers, I'm sure some of you are, you should be able to understand the role of the project manager, what he does, and some skills that are needed. Again, at the end of this chapter, you should be able to describe what we call the project life cycle. And last but not least, you should be able to understand the organizational influences on projects. Okay, let's get started. What is a project? There are several definitions to what a project is. But of course, I picked the definition from the Project Management Institutes. And the Institute says, or defines a project as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or results. So, as per the definition, you realize that a project is not an unending set of activities. The key words are temporary, unique product, service, or results. So that means by their nature, projects are supposed to be temporary. That means they must have a definite beginning and definite end. So if you have a couple of activities that are quite unending, they don't qualify to be technically called projects. Then of course, projects churn out products, services, or results. So a product basically is something tangible that can be felt. So the end of the project, for example, may culminate in the creation of, let's say, something tangible like a road or an IC or a building or any manufacturing products. So that way you can say that the project has churned out something that is tangible, that is product. Okay, a qualifier to the project the product is unique. So there must be some uniqueness of the product. Of course, the product may have been created before, but the uniqueness comes about because of the difference in times that a product may have been created. So for example, it may be a construction projects, maybe a road construction project, the same kilometers stretch of road, but by virtue of the fact that they may be in two different locations that would pass for a project. Then we have service. Service usually is something not tangible. Okay, so the end result of a project may lead to the creation of a service like couple of IT guys who decide to create a website for departments or for a company. And so the end result of the project will be the service that will be rendered, and that service will be the website. Of course, it could be also in an organization. There may be a few things that need to be done, and so management may deem it necessary to consider the project team to sort that one out. So the end of it, for example, may lead to maybe better quality of service. In that case, we say that the project did not, create something tangible, but something that's not tangible, and so qualify for a service. Then we also have a result. Sometimes a bit confusing what the result is, but a result maybe a yes or no, or maybe a win or a lose. For example, an election, for example, maybe taken as at the beginning of the election, it's maybe taken as a project. So all the preparation towards the election and all the activities may be seen as a project. Of course, at the end of the election, there may be a winner or a loser. So the result may be a win or lose. Okay, so that is it with what a project is. Now, projects have attributes, and we shall look at a couple of these attributes. Not in any order of importance, but all projects must have a unique purpose. Okay, that means the project must have some particular reason why it's been done, and not just been done for doing a project's sake. So that uniqueness, or the uniqueness of the purpose of a project is extremely important. Then a project must be temporary. Of course, I've spoken about this already. So temporary means it must have a definite beginning and a definite end. Then another attribute is progressive elaboration. That means as a project unfolds, as you as a project manager, as a project team, continue with the activities of the project, a lot of things become clearer to you. So that means as you progress, as you go through the project, things become clearer to you. So sometimes, depending on the nature of the project, it may be quite difficult to right from the beginning understand everything about the project. But of course, you should plan all the same. So as a project unfolds, okay, a lot of things become clearer to you. That's the attribute we mean by progressive elaboration. And all projects consume resources, okay, often from various areas. And again, this depends on the on the nature of projects. Okay, but the resource will be anything that will aid you in the project. So it can be human resource, i.e. human beings, or it can be material resource, okay, or it can be equipment or even money. Okay, so all these resources can come from various areas, and of course this depends on the peculiar nature of the project. Then again, another attribute is that a project must have primary customer or sponsor. All projects have stakeholders. Okay, a customer or sponsor will be the one who has primary interest in the project, and so has put his money into the project for the project to be carried out on his behalf. Of course, such people really would want to see to the success of the project. Okay, so it's very important that project managers identify who the main stakeholders are. Of course, customers and sponsors are all stakeholders. Then one other interesting attribute of project is the element of uncertainty. Okay, because every project is unique. Sometimes it may be difficult to define some of them clearly, and so for as long as the project exists or the project unfolds, some surprises may come up. But that notwithstanding, the project manager, through very good risk management, should be able to contain such uncertainties. Great. Then we go to the next topic called triple constraint. All projects, okay, are constrained, of course, technically by 3 areas. There could be a lot more constraints, but technically there are 3 areas, okay, or three ways by which a project can be constrained. So we have what we call the scope constraint, we have what we call the cost constraint, and what we call the time constraint. So to be successful, we say that the project must be on time, within budget, I mean the cost constraint, and of course must meet the clients or the customer's performance specification. So it's the duty of the project manager to be successful, okay, within these constraints. And of course the difficulty is also to try to manage a project with these constraints. Okay, so the cost constraint, in fact, is got to do with issues of cost, trying to make sure that whatever has been planned, okay, is what actually is happening. And so sometimes you have to check on, sometimes, or almost always on a project, you have to make sure that whatever amount of money has been scheduled to be spent is what is actually being spent. And so you must put in some control mechanisms as a project manager to make sure that you're within whatever cost constraint. More so if the project is the fixed price contract kind of project. We shall be looking at contracts and the like later on in the course. Then there's a scope element, which is extremely important. Of course, all of them are important. Scope also extremely important because depending on how you understand the project, and of course, and depending on what the client wants, basically, you may have to drop a set of activities that you can use, or you as a project manager together, your team, can engage in to make sure that you meet the client's performance or scope goal. And of course, there's also the element of time, because all projects must be finished within a specific timeline. So if the project is unending, of course, then it doesn't even qualify as a project. So once the project gets started, you must before the project even starts, you must know whatever time constraints they are, and so your duty as a project manager is to do a project within the time constraints. Okay. So a successful project manager is one who is able to meet all these 3 goals. Okay, and sometimes there could be trade-offs, but of course the trade-offs depends on what is crucial in the project. Let's go to what project management is. Project management, again, I'm taking this definition from the Project Management Institute, is the application of the knowledge and skills and tools and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. And so you or your team members will be knowledgeable in some area. Okay, so it could be in renewable energy technologies, or it could be in purely IT, it could be in chemical engineering, it could be in construction. Okay, so you have acquired some knowledge, and your ability to apply that knowledge to project activities, okay, to meet the requirements of the project or form part of project management. Of course, that should be managed. That this application should be specific to whatever project that you're doing. If we talk about knowledge, you even have what we call the technical knowledge, okay, that is with respect to a particular project that you're doing, and of course we also have the administrative knowledge. Then we have the skills, okay, and these skills depend on the individual. Okay, these skills you may have acquired over time by your experience or through experience or through whatever means. Okay, some of these skills you learn on the job. Some of the skills are also depends on you, the person. Okay, then there are tools. Tools are basically the implements, okay, that you may have to apply. And again, we have the techniques, the know-how. Okay, all these you have to bring to bear on project activities in order to meet project requirements. Now, there are some knowledge areas. Okay, and these knowledge areas describe the key competencies that you as a project manager must develop in order to manage a project successfully. Now, there are nine or so. Okay. Now, the ninth one, not in any particular order per se, but the ninth one is like the summation of all of them. But the knowledge areas have been divided into two areas. We have the four core knowledge areas, and then we have the four facilitating knowledge areas. Okay, so the core knowledge areas include project scope, okay, time, cost, and quality. Okay, these are core areas that you as a project manager must be able to master. Then these are the areas which we call the facilitating knowledge areas. Okay, help or facilitates, okay, the management of projects, and these are the human resource management, the communications management, the risk management, and the procurement management. But all these things must be put together to help the project manager manage a project successfully. And so we call the ninth knowledge area the project integration management. That's try to integrate all these together. And so in this diagram you can see these 9 knowledge areas. Okay, so we have the scope management. Of course, as we journey on, we take each of these knowledge areas as chapters and delve deeper into them. Okay, so we have the scope management, we have the time management, we have the cost management, we have the quality management, as I said. And then we have these are the core functions or the core knowledge areas. You need them on any particular projects to be successful. Of course, the facilitating functions are also extremely important. Okay, and these are the human resource management, communications management, risk management, and then the procurement management. Okay, so what we have, in fact, on this diagram is what we call the project management framework. Okay, so on the left side, you see the stakeholders' needs and expectations. Of course, before you can do a project, you must understand, okay, the needs and expectations of stakeholders. And with these knowledge areas together with tools and techniques, you should be able to be successful in any project that you do. Now, the next question is who are stakeholders? Now, stakeholders usually say it in person as people or organizations or persons who have a stake in a project. I mean, the stake could be positive or negative, but Stakeholders are those who are actively involved in the projects and whose interests may positively, and not only positively, but also negatively affect the performance or completion of a project. So if you're doing any project at all, you must endeavor to know who the stakeholders are, i.e. who the main sponsor is, who the project team members are, who the customer is, who the end users are. Anybody at all, if it's in the community, who the community leaders are, and so on. So the stakeholders vary, and it depends on the nature of the project or the kind of project you're doing. So it's extremely important to know who your stakeholders are. Stakeholder analysis is extremely important. Again, we shall discuss this going forward. Now, is that project manager's duty to manage these stakeholders, because they have varying degrees of influence. Some may have more influence than others, and so this is the duty of the project manager to manage the influence of the stakeholders and to know when and how to deal with them during the process of managing the project. Then again, we have to try and understand the difference between what we call a program and then the portfolio, and generally what we mean by program management, and then portfolio management. So a portfolio refers to a collection of projects or programs, in other words, that are grouped together to facilitate effective management of the work, to meet strategic business objectives. So organizations that have a couple of projects running may decide to have a portfolio, and this portfolio will be a collection of projects and programs. We shall discuss programs shortly. An idea is that when you put them together in one portfolio, one as it were a container, then you can be able to effectively and efficiently manage these projects and programs so that overall the objectives of the organization will be achieved. Because of course, organizations don't just do projects for doing sake. They do projects because they have strategic objectives, and these objectives should be met through these projects. And so program management is basically the centralized management of one or more portfolios. That is program management. Then a program, in fact, is defined as a group of projects that are managed in a coordinated way to obtain benefits, and control not available for managed individuals. So that means there's some kind of synergistic advantage or some kind of synergy that organizations derive from programs, so as against managing projects individually. So program management basically is a centralized, coordinated management of a program. We don't deal with program management and portfolio management in this course, but I thought it's important that we understand this in this framework. Of course, to take somebody with a lot of experience managing a couple of projects for so many years to become a program manager or portfolio manager. Now, all projects have a life cycle. Just as human beings have a life cycle. So you move from infancy through adolescence to adulthood, and then of course old age, and the inevitable happens, and you pass away. The same is for projects. So all projects have a life cycle. That means they have different stages along the time axis. So of course, if you have a project that spans, for example, 1 year, and for the most part of it, people are just planning on the project and not doing anything, then of course you will know that the project has a problem. So sometimes you can judge, or not even sometimes, you can always judge the project, and how successful the execution of the project is, via the life cycle of the project, how many phases the project goes through as against the time that the project is supposed to end. So this life cycle, in fact, provides a basic framework for managing a project, regardless of the work specified or the work involved in the project. and all projects can be mapped to the flowing life cycle. Okay, so we have starting the project where we do all the preparatory work and all those stuff. And so here, not a lot of effort is put in. Okay, then we go to organizing and preparing, where some amount of resources are needed. Okay, then we go to carrying out the project work itself, where there's a lot of effort there, a lot of effort is put in. That's where the project execution case, and that's where you also have to monitor and control the project execution, so that by the time you get to the last stage, that is close to the project, you wouldn't be found wanting. So these are some of the stages that projects go through. Of course, we have another way of looking at it, or looking at these stages. And so some talk about the initiation or the initiating stage. Okay, so starting the project can be looked at in terms of the initiating stage. Okay, then we have the planning stage. Okay, so planning again can be looked at in terms of organizing and preparing, so that can be looked at as planning. Then of course we have the execution stage. So carrying out the project work is the execution stage, and then we have the monitoring and control, and finally the closing out phase. So depending on the textbook that you're using, they may be talking about these steps, that is initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, and then closing close out phase. But all these phases again can be mapped onto what I've just discussed, that is starting the project, organizing and preparing, carrying out the project, and then closing project. Now, a very good project manager may be found wanting in an organization. And again, I'm saying this because organizational structures have a lot of influence on how the project manager can fully show what he can do, his competence and the things that he can do. Okay, so how a company is organized, in fact, dictates who the project manager has to go for help. For example, when he wants some resource, let's say human beings or vehicle or computers or some machines, and how communication must be handled, and how many components of project management should be. Okay, we have several types of organizations, and these organizational structures have a great influence on the project manager and how he's able to manage a project in these organizations. We have three main types of organizations. Of course, there's a fourth one I didn't talk about, but that we call the composite structure. Okay, I'll basically be talking about these three, which are the functional organizations, the projectized organizations, and the matrix organizations. Now, a functional organization basically is an organization that is grouped around functions. Okay, so people are employed not to come and work on project, but because of their expertise in some functional area, like in marketing or in finance or in manufacturing or in IT or in operations. So people are employed to work in these areas because possibly they have degrees or they have some kind of qualification. Okay, that can help them when they work in those areas. So a project manager wanting to manage a project in an organization, or if say an organization decides to embark on a project, then the project may, not always the case, but project may have a home, and one of the homes of the project, or the home of the project, could be in any of the functional areas. So here again, the project manager, if he's not a functional manager, may have problems dealing with a functional manager, because the structure of the organization by itself is not made for projects. And so that is how a functional organization can dictate how projects okay, and project managers can be successful or otherwise. Then we have the next organizational structure we call the projectized organizational structure. And this is one organizational structure that the project manager would want to work in, because the organization, in fact, is organized by projects, and the project manager has control over the project. So, in fact, the project manager will be in charge of a team. Okay, and usually the project team is somewhat an autonomous team with all that it needs, okay, to be successful. So here, in terms of the focus of power, the project manager will wield a lot of power, because he may be given all the resources and may have control over all the three areas that we spoke about, i.e. the costs, the time, the scope. Then the next type of organization, which is the matrix organization, is basically like a functional organization overlaid on the project organization. The idea here, or the idea behind a matrix organization, is to try to maximize the strengths of both the functional and the projectized organizational forms. Okay, and a project manager working in such organization may be better off than one working in a functional organization. Okay, because here again he may enjoy some leverage. For mixed organizations, we have what we call we have what we call a balance matrix. Okay, when you say balance matrix, it means that the project manager and the functional manager have almost equal powers. Then when it tilts towards a functional organization, then we say that the matrix organization is the weak matrix. And if it tilts towards the projectized organization, we say the organization is a strong matrix. Of course, strong because it's the balance of power tilts in the favor of the project manager in matrix organization as against in a pure the balance of power in a strong matrix, it tilts towards the project manager, or tilts in the favor of the project manager as against the weak matrix, where it tilts in the favor of the functional. So in summary, you can see that the project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. And every project is constrained in three ways: by the scope, the time, and the costs, goals. And we've also looked at the project management as the application of the knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. And then stakeholders are people involved in or affected by project activities. Project management knowledge areas describe the key competencies that the project managers must develop. And in mature project management organizations, project management exists in a broader context governed by either program management or portfolio management. We also looked at the project life cycle as providing the basic framework for managing project regardless of the work involved, and the fact that projects are also impacted or have impact on the cultural norms, management policies, and procedures of the organization of which it's